Welcome to R.O.G, Return on Generosity podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Cassidy. Today, we're tackling a key barrier to effective communication, something I like to call defensive listening. Defensive listening occurs when someone hears words but reacts defensively, filtering the message through our own insecurity or fear. And let's be clear, that's what's happening. We're hearing the message through our own insecurity or fear, which is disabling us from actually receiving the message. So instead of engaging, we might become combative or withdraw, that fight or flight, and it stifles our opportunity for genuine connection. What are some clues that we might be defensive listening? And it's obviously easier to recognize when other people are doing it. It's far more challenging and less common for us to see it in ourselves. So here are some clues. One is when we are making assumptions. If we are assuming that we know the reason for the conversation or what the speaker is going to say before they even say it, we might be defensive listening. A very common one is personalizing comments. So when we hear the comments that were innocent or meant to be informative as somehow personal or a judgment, or we interpret it as criticism, we're probably defensive listening. And then a third is when we resist the speaker, like we resist or we judge the speaker and the message entirely. Here's an example. Picture a friend is sharing a concern about your behavior, bravely, I might add. If you immediately respond with, "You don't understand my situation," you're falling into defensive listening. This reaction not only shuts down the conversation, but it also prevents any opportunity for growth or understanding. So, how can we practice avoiding defensive listening and foster a more generous approach? Well, here's 3 strategies we could try. 1, pause before responding. When you feel that familiar twinge of defensiveness, take a moment to breathe. This brief pause allows you to gather your thoughts and respond with intention rather than emotion. Viktor Frankl taught us that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our own power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So, stimulus, the thing that somebody said, response, our generous response to it, only after a pause. The second thing we could try is to seek clarification. So, instead of assuming the speaker's intent, ask questions. Paraphrase like, "Can you help me understand what you mean?" And be cautious about your tone here because you could easily say, "Can you help me understand what you mean?" So think about how you say it, but ask questions and clarify. Seek to understand with a genuine curiosity to encourage dialogue and show them that you value their perspective. A third thing we could try is to embrace empathy. Remember, the goal of communication is connection. So try to see things from the other person's viewpoint. Ask how they might be feeling or what do you think that they hope to achieve through this conversation. Let's look at a scenario. Imagine a colleague approaches you about a project that did not meet expectations. Instead of defending your choices, respond with something like, "I appreciate your input. Can you share what you think went wrong?" This not only diffuses tension, but it exhibits humility, openness, and availability to their perspective, and it keeps the door open for collaboration and improvement. By practicing these strategies, you're deciding to drive on the high road. You've heard me say this countless times that there's never any traffic on the high road, and the view is amazing. It requires self discipline and self awareness. And when we do this, we create space for generosity in our interactions. We listen without defensiveness and we invite growth and understanding so we can transform even conflicts into opportunities for connection. So this week, remember that avoiding defensive listening is a skill that can significantly enhance our relationships. The next time you feel that defensiveness creeping in, take a moment to pause, clarify, and empathize. This will not only improve communication, but it will nurture a culture of generosity. Thank you for joining me on this episode of R.O.G. Until next time, keep listening with an open heart and stay generous, everyone.